Hey everyone, it's Maribel Blue, and this is a special episode. So, this is not pathetically unfiltered, but probably just Maribel Blue Unfiltered. If you are new here, welcome to this channel. I normally do news and reactions, but again, this episode is going to be a little different. I want to talk about who we have become. There have been a lot of things I've been thinking about with politics, with life, with people. The other day, I requested up on a live, and there were already two people up on the panel. The host had an open dialogue of discussion going, and I was parked in the chat for a time being before I requested up. As the other people had a chance to speak, and she called upon me to share, I went up there basically to thank her for her openness in sharing on past lives about people who are quick to create content without having valuable information for the sake of just getting the information out there so that they can go viral. I shared how people don't take into account about the followers they have and what they are sharing. It really is about the clout, the chase of the clout, and not so much of where the information is getting generated from. There was another lady already on the panel who began speaking before I completed my thought, and I muted my mic. As she was speaking, she reminded me of another point I wanted to make, and when she paused, I unmuted my mic so that I could piggyback on what she was saying, and she stopped me abruptly, asking me to let her finish. I guess I was disrupting a moment of her trying to sound powerful in the midst of her monologuing. So I paused and I muted my mic, but honestly, I was taken aback in the way she responded to me. I waited for the host to let me know when it was my turn to speak. But as I was waiting, I noticed this was the type of live where popularity was more important than the information being shared, which was ironic because the whole point of this valuable topic was to share valuable information instead of focusing on going viral. I noticed that the gifting of the guests who were already there previous to my requesting up, also guests that came up after were getting gifted and they had not spoken yet. I just want to be clear. This isn't about me going up to panels to get gifts. The chat limits the characters, and being that her live was specific to an open discussion, I wanted to share and thank her for her openness in reminding people that not everybody is an expert in a whole bunch of fields, because we have that too. Suddenly, everybody's an expert in everything without having the education to back that up. There are people who at some point need to sit back and shut the fuck up. It's that simple. The last few months, I've been thinking about my life, the direction I'm working towards. I was doing lives almost every night, and I found they were draining me. I enjoyed the panel of guests, but there were times I felt restricted in trying to appease everyone in those lives. TikTok has been the easiest platform to connect and build communities, but what happens within these communities are cliques, and the people hosting begin to bring up the same people they know. Therefore, the voices become popular, and the ones with credible information do not gain the same popularity. I found my lives weren't doing that great unless I had people who had a strong following who joined the panel, and those people would normally follow and stay for the conversation. But if that person leaves the lives, so do the people who follow them. Because why would they stay, even with the conversation flowing? I became frustrated sitting there for 3 to 4 hours, not really gaining anything monetary. That wasn't fun. But at the same time, another creator can have similar topics and people will follow them and have no problem gifting them and participating in the conversations. So, what was I doing wrong? Actually, nothing. You see, just like any social media app, the louder your voice, the more popular you become while spreading misinformation. Who is the person who will correct the misinformed person, even if that person is from the left side of politics? I'll use this as an example. There was a person that I had become friends with through a movement she was heading up with another person who apparently was the initiator of this said movement. There was a video that she had posted earlier this year where she stitched another person walking around featuring empty store shelves in a supermarket. I knew this video couldn't be accurate because having done shopping myself, shopping with my family, store shelves were not empty. I even contacted some of my friends back in New York City and they told me everything is pretty much full here. So I knew that this video couldn't be accurate. I realized that she was stitching an old video from the pandemic to instill fear into people about tariffs. And yes, we know the tariffs aren't a good thing. But the point isn't about tariffs, it's about the grift to go viral. Another great example was another live where I heard a woman exclaiming how Trump is protecting us by killing people who are fishermen while claiming they are drug cartels to stop fentanyl coming into the USA. These are all lies. TikTok is designed to build a following either through dancing, pranking, grifting, or through popularity. It doesn't matter if you wear a blue or a red hat. It is about being the seer of information, even if that information is incorrect or designed to incite fear. While it is spectacular to have that viral moment of a video and gain a mass of followers, it is also important that we as humans with some kind of a conscience to be able to share information as accurate as it can be. And if that information or parts of that information is incorrect or deliberately left out, it is our responsibility to ensure that we retract the misinformation and share the correct information. Here's the other aspect that I noticed. There are people who can share the same type of information, but because of our own biases, we will pick and choose who we wish to support, not because of the delivery of the information, but because of who is coming from. We can have two of the same creators with the same background, yet, for some odd reason, either through jealousy or through hate or whatever the situation is, people will opt out of supporting a creator and not the other because of those biases. We can blame politics, this administration, the reasoning of our internal strife and hate. But at the end of the day, the hate already existed. The hate was already there. Social media just expounded it by bringing it out to the open, either through ads like what Facebook was doing, or now the inception of AI. And not many people are trained to see videos and not know that it's AI. Why is it that we support someone like Aaron Parnas maybe over Brian Tyler Cohen? Why are people more reliant with the brothers of the Midas Touch Network as opposed to someone like Kyle Kalensky of Secular Talk, or Glenn Kirshner, or Mark Elias, who are both attorneys and understand the legalities of this political climate? And yes, the brothers of the Midas Touch Network are attorneys, but notice their news is more about drama and hype of what's happening within our political climate, as opposed to sharing the legal aspects, which will behoove us as a society, as opposed to feeding into the drama. Going back to the live I was on, I realized the lady on the panel was there to hear more of herself, as opposed to sharing relevant information that can help all of us. There is a problem in our world today when we want to platform ourselves for the sole purpose of look at me instead of let's work together in making our voices be heard as one. The past few months, after removing myself from that disastrous movement, which had been doing a lot of damage to my mental health and well being, I took a step back to really analyze my life as a whole. And while I continue to build a community of beautiful, like minded people who are also feeling the same way, my introversion behaviors have not gone away. Even while getting invited into panels, it has become a fight for who has the most powerful message, the gifting contest, or the example that I shared with you requesting onto a panel, I normally just stay in the chat and listen. And to feel adversity from a lady who behaved as though she was the only voice on the panel. There is an internal strife happening among us. And within that internal strife, there is a severe distrust. And with that distrust comes with who you voted for. And even if you voted with the person with common sense, which is Kamala Harris, well, being Hispanic, I can be accused of voting Republican thanks to the Latinos for Trump, who have given the majority of Hispanics who did not advocate for this bullshit a bad name, and honestly the biggest joke within the communities, while they danced and was singing around about Donald Trump only to meet the ICE agents later. The other aspect are the friendships I've had over the years. There are people who I'm closer with now than I have been over the years, while other friendships have fallen to the wayside, not because of politics, but for the variety of things. Distance, because I live in another state, so most of my friends are from New York City. There was an AI image that I've used in my lives in the past of a girl standing in the middle of a busy street, standing as if life is just passing her by with no one noticing that she's standing there. Most times, that's the way I feel. That I'm standing in front of a social media app, scrolling through time, watching lives of people arguing with other MAGAs, try to explain how their vote benefits no one, not even them or the MAGAs themselves, trolling, continue to use racial slurs, how they still lack integrity and maturity, but yet we still want to sit there and argue with people who don't care. Even videos like, pranking or dancing or cat videos, there's always somebody that's going to go in there and say, oh, it must be a left, it must be a liberal, because people don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to let go. They don't understand the value of humanity. I have this board in my office, right? Nobody can see it because you see the background, but it's here on the side of my wall. It's filled with pictures and keepsakes, things that I've lived throughout my life, including the last picture that I took of the Twin Towers. I call it my board of life. See, most times when I'm sitting here and I take a break from typing, I look up and I stare at the memories staring back at me. And when I look at all of the pictures that are there, like a picture of my friend Judy with Uno cards on her face, because we used to play Uno all the time, a picture of Madonna in her Ray of Light phase from the Rolling Stone magazine cover, just little things. And I think that life was so different then because we weren't consumed by social media. We weren't tied to our phones all day long, scrolling our lives away. Social media apps didn't dominate our decision making of how we were going to spend our day. We weren't living in a time where we were sitting at our desk, opening up Facebook and arguing with strangers because they disagreed with our comment on a post of a mutual friend, no less. And then we would be so angry that we would make typos in the midst of trying to get our point across. There was a time where we were all living our lives. We were going out to dinner, we were going out shopping, we were picking up the phone, we were having actual conversations with our friends. And I'm not saying these things aren't happening now, but think about now, how many of us go out with our friends and still check our phones? How many of us go out to dinner and when the food arrives, we eat and scroll through our phones? We have become a society where we are in constant competition with one another. If someone shares a bit of information, there's always someone in that room. Wait, I could share it better. And if you're a genuine person sharing experiences, there's always going to be somebody else that's in jealousy mode, wanting to cut you off and crying, wait, let me finish. It's my turn to talk. It's my turn so that you can hear me because I need to be heard. There isn't a deep appreciation of learning from others. And if you are learning, and if you're sitting back and listening to someone, are you listening to them and taking in the information, or are you listening to them and judging them at the same time? Because if you're judging them, you're not learning. Are we allowing ourselves to deep dive in critical thinking skills and not just running with half information? That's the thing that irks me the most. Oh my God, I listened to 1 second of this video. I got to repost it. I got to reshare it. Meanwhile, you haven't heard the whole video in its entirety. You haven't read the whole article in its entirety because you're rushing to get it out there. And you don't even know if the information is valuable information or if the information is outdated. As I stated earlier, with that girl stitching a video of empty supermarkets during a time of the pandemic and then telling everybody this is what's happening now when that wasn't happening. And when we question people about the information, why is it that the defense mechanisms go up? Where did you get that information? Can you share the article with me? Can you share the video with me? Instead of just admitting, maybe I shared misinformation. Maybe this information was wrong. I apologize. Here's the right information. The herd mentality isn't just accustomed to the red hats. I don't know what will become of us within the next 3 years of this madness or the next 10 years. Hopefully, we can laugh within a 10-year period about look at how crazy we were. Look at what we went through and look at what we learned from it. Let's not ever do this again. All I know is that right now, none of us are in a good place, not even the MAGAs. No matter how hard they troll and lie, they are not in a good place either. And while TikTok has been the beneficial app to share these opinions and thoughts, it has also become a place where people get trapped in a world to hear themselves without thinking about the person who's listening to them. Now, that's not to say that everyone who's on TikTok and using this app is doing this. But if you listen closely, if you pay attention, there are people who do not care about the message they are spreading for as long as they are making money through this app by spreading those messages. And until we start really listening and using our critical thinking skills, and research without relying on what a creator is saying, we will remain to live in an insane world of unreliability and continuing to outdo one another for the sake of going viral. If you support small business, I do have a store called surfbox.com. I'm going to put the link in the description. Show your support. Show your support to people who really need it right now, because this isn't about supporting the loudest voice. This is about supporting everyone without judgment. And with all that being said, this is Maribel Blue signing off. I would like to know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, remember, be good to yourself, be good to each other, and most importantly, take care of you. Bye, everybody.